techniques video for you today with a swatch book showing you lots of different techniques using the Nuvo Shimmer Powders. I've previously done a comparison between Nuvo Shimmer Powders and Pixie Powders, so I'll try and remember to link that below so you can go and have a watch of that if you want to know the difference between the different types of powders as well. But I wanted to show you quite a few techniques that you can do with the shimmer powders, because I use them a lot in my videos and do different techniques with them, but when it's in the sped up style, I think some people don't always pick up on them, and it's quite nice just to have one video with all the different techniques. Well, there's probably more than what I've done, but all the techniques that I use. There was an original release of shimmer powders which came out over a year ago now, and there were 8 colours in that release. You had a yellow called Solar Flare, pink called Cherry Bomb, red called Catherine Wheel, purple called Violet Brocade, green called Green Parade, a sort of turquoise called Atlantis Burst, blue called Blue Blitz, and a black one called Storm Cloud. Then, in the Dreaming colour trend, the first one of 2019, you got another purpley one called Lilac Waterfall. And then, in the most recent colour trend, as I'm filming this video, was Woodland Walk, and you got Falling Leaves and Golden Sparkler in there as well. So I'll make sure... Oh yeah, I'm also now... when I do these talking videos, I'm also doing a corresponding blog post with picture links to all of the products that I've used. So you don't have to remember the name I've told you to know which one you wanted. You can just click on my... link to my blog that will be in the description, and it will take you to that blog post where you can see everything in picture form, and I'll link to all of the shimmer powders on there as well. So I've got quite a few different tags to show you. So this first one is showing adding water first and then sprinkling the powders in. This whole book I've used Solar Flare, Atlantis Burst and Green Parade because I wanted to just keep it all the same kinds of colours, so it's easier to compare really. So this one, this is showing adding water first and then putting the powder into it, and these are all dried naturally as well. Then I've also done adding the powder first and then adding water. You can see I think you tend to be more heavy-handed when you add the powder into the water, but if you've added the powder first, I think you get a lighter, more like ethereal look, and you kind of get these little, this kind of pattern where the spray has just caught in some places and, you know, made the powder activate. So I really like both looks, but I wanted to show, so this one is water first, this one is powder first, and then I also wanted to show you their effect on black as well. Look how strongly they show up on black. So you can use them on any dark coloured cards as well. Then I wanted to show how you can paint with them. So all you do is tip out a little bit of the powder, mix it up with a little bit of water, and then you can simply paint with it as if it was a watercolour paint. And again, they show up really nicely on both black and white, and obviously you can get different colour tones of them by adding more water to give a more dilute colour, and you can also splat with them as well, like any sort of ink or paint that you're using, you can paint with it and splat with it. A nice way to finish a card is to just have a little bit of one of the shimmer powders in one of the colours that's in your card and watering it down and splatting it on, because it just gives something extra to the card. So that's that as well. Then you can do sort of freehand watercolouring. That's a bit rubbish, but I just wanted to show that you can. And you can also colour in stamped images as well. This one was just stamped with VersaFine Onyx Black, and you can see the mica is covering some of the detail within the centre of the flower, but to avoid that you can stamp in black and clear heat emboss, or stamp with clear and black heat emboss as well, whichever way you prefer doing it. But you can, if you heat emboss your images, one, you don't go out the lines as much because it kind of creates a barrier, but two, the lines would stay nice and black because the mica wouldn't stay on top of it, because it's a liquid, it'll sort of repel off the embossing. Then one of my favourite techniques actually is to use them with stencils, and you get 2 different techniques for this. So all you do is you take a piece of card, you place your stencil onto the card, and then you do exactly as you would if you were adding the powder first, and just tap it all over the card, trying to get a sort of nice even coverage. You don't need too much powder, but you want there to at least be colour everywhere, otherwise you won't get the full pattern. I mean, it is quite abstract of the pattern, but you still do get the pattern showing. Yeah, so you have your card, your stencil, you tap on all the powder, and then when you're using your spray bottle, I recommend the Nuvo Light Mist spray bottle because it gives a really fine mist, but you want to be spraying it from really high up. So usually when I'm spraying, I'm probably about 10 centimetres away from what I'm spraying, but for this technique you want to be up high, like at least a ruler, like 30 centimetres away from your project when you're spraying, because you get a proper even coverage of water over everything as well. And then you remove the stencil, but then flip it over, and then you get this pattern as well, which is, I call this the positive because that's what you're supposed to get from the stencil, and this is the negative because you're printing from the stencil. But yeah, you get both of these whenever you do this technique through a stencil. And also I found when I do it through the stencil, this positive one, if you take some kitchen roll and blot it up, the pattern appears more as well. But it's sort of trial and error, this technique. You kind of have to experiment a few times with it to work out what the perfect formula is for you, and what spray bottle to use and how far away to spray it from and everything. But I've just found the Nuvo Light Mist spray bottle, and then from about 30 centimetres away is a good one to start with if you're testing it out. Then you can also use them like their mica powders. They are a mix of a mica powder and a pigment powder as well, but if you stamp in a clear sticky ink like the Nuvo Clear Mark or Versamark or Perfect Medium, something like that, stamp your images and then literally tap on a little bit of the powder and use a soft fluffy brush like one of these mop brushes, or you can get these little makeup brushes in Poundland and they work really well as well. And all you do is you've added the powder on and you literally like dust it over like this, exactly as if you're using mica powders. And then again spritzing from with the light mist bottle from really up high, just to get it to set as well, because it might rub off of just the clear mark powder, but if you do that spritz of water, you should set it nicely and it shouldn't come off. I mean, it doesn't really come off now because I've sprayed it with water, and again you can do that on black and white because they show up on both. Then along the watercolory theme, you can get a really subtle watercolour with them. So this is just like what I said with the making the stripy pattern. Add some more water to it and then just use a bigger brush and do a wishy-washy watercolory background. That's just using really light colours. That's using less diluted colours, so you've put more powder in with the same amount of water. Then, to take this one a step further, you want to make sure it's nice and wet, and then you can sprinkle salt in it and leave it to dry, and you get this kind of a look. So you basically you don't want to put salt everywhere because it kind of defeats the object of having that sort of pattern, but you want to place the salt where there is the most water, because the salt is going to suck the moisture out of it and leave you with this cool pattern. Then again, instead of adding salt, you can also scrunch up some cling film and add that on top. I really love that look that you get with cling film. Really pretty, because all the mica kind of collects in the wrinkles of the cling film. It gives you a really cool look. Then another technique you can do with it, this came out quite patchy, but this is using it in shaving foam and like marbling them together. But if you wanted more of a marbled look, you could actually mix the powders thoroughly into the shaving foam first to actually colour the shaving foam, and then dollop some of the different colours on and mix them together and then take a print that way. Or you can also do that same thing where you mix the colour into the shaving foam and then drag it over a stencil using like an old gift card or something, and then pull the stencil off, leave that to dry and the shaving foam to evaporate, and you get a proper crisp stencil design. So if you're not very good at stenciling with an ink blending tool or with a brush, or it always seeps underneath when you're using texture paste or something, an easy way to get a perfect design of a stencil is to mix the colour into some shaving foam. It doesn't have to be shimmer powders actually, it could be re-inkers, it could be aquaflows, anything liquidy that you can colour things with. and then scrape it through the stencil, like I said, and then, yeah, you get the perfect design. But yeah, this came out quite patchy because I'd tapped on the powder and then swirled it around a little bit and sprayed a little bit of water to try and activate the powder. You get, yeah, so it is quite patchy, but you do kind of get that marbled look. It's just another way of using them, really. And again, that's in the shaving foam. So that's that technique. You can also use them on vellum. It does go very wrinkly, but usually when I use them on vellum, I will cut a frame and then mount the frame onto the vellum. So one that makes it much easier to stick it down because you can just put the adhesive behind the frame, but two, it also keeps it flatter because you're kind of like stretching it between a frame as well. So that's using it on vellum. There are a few videos actually where I've used Aquaflows, and I don't know if I was using shimmer powders actually, but I've definitely used Aquaflows on vellum to give a similar kind of effect without the shimmer as well. Then, speaking of Aquaflows, I painted on some Mango Mimosa, which is a bright yellow Aquaflow, and then I just tapped on really lightly some Solar Flare. So you've got the matte colour of the Aquaflow in the background, and then you've got a speckly pattern of the mica powder on top. So that's another way of using them. You can add a different colour on top of a different colour of Aquaflow. You can do same on same colour, you can add multiple colours on top. It's just an alternative to adding water onto your background first. You can add an Aquaflow, or any watercolour really. Then, speaking of the Aquaflows and stuff, they have two sparkly ones in the range. They have the Glitter Gloss, which is a sort of silvery clear sparkle, and the Midas Touch, which is a gold sparkle. And you could do a messy watercolour background and drop in either of those two sparkles to add something extra as well. So you get the glittery look as well as the mica look too. So I just wanted to show how you can mix them together. Then think about all your other Nuvo products that you own. So these three things here. One is normal embellishment mousse in pure platinum. That one's the normal one. This one is the expanding mousse in worn linen, and this one is the glitter accents in fresh snowfall, but the glimmer paste in Moonstone would also be a perfect alternative as well. It just so happens I have this bottle open, so I was using this, but the glimmer accents is pretty much identical to this. But you can colour it. So this was using Solar Flare, Atlantis Burst, Green Parade. This was the normal embellishment mousse, and you can see you still get that really cool pearly finish of an embellishment mousse, but you've just added your colour with the shimmer powders. Then you can also add it to the expanding mousse, so you get the pearl of the expanding mousse and the expansion of the expanding mousse, but in all sorts of cool colours that aren't in the expanding mousse range. And then finally we have adding it to the glitter accents or glimmer paste as well. So yeah, I just wanted to show you all those cool techniques whilst I had a little swatch book made of them, just to give you some ideas of different ways of how you can use your shimmer powders. Yeah, and don't forget to click the link to my blog below to see picture links for all the products that I've shown in this video as well. So that'll be all of the shimmer powders, the embellishment mousses, the glitter gloss and the Midas Touch and everything, just so it's easier for you to see, you know, if you decide you want one of the things, you haven't got to remember what I said it was called. But yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this techniques video, and I'll see you again soon. Bye! Oh, thanks for watching too. Bye!